Hi, everyone. Welcome into the Marvelous Marvel Discussion Arena, our show about all things Marvel. I'm your host, Expat, along with my co-hosts, Burley of Burleyman Gaming and Turn-Based Carl. So how you guys doing? You ready to talk about some Miss Marvel? So we're going to talk about Miss Marvel episodes 5 and 6, the season finale. So, yeah, how you guys doing, man? You ready to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm so ready.
Okay.
Is it over?
Come on. Positivity, guys. Come on. Positivity. Yeah.
I was positive
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah, well, there are
of
some
the
good elements to this.
series.
We shall talk about it. But first, I just want to let all of you know that this is a spoiler fill review of episodes 5 and 6. So if you have not watched episodes 5 and 6 of Miss Marvel, please go and watch them on Disney Plus before watching our video. So because we're going to be recapping and reviewing both episode 5 and 6 with a ton of spoilers. So that is your warning. So please be forewarned. And for all of you watching on YouTube, want to thank you all for, we just hit 25,000 views here on the Arena Productions on the channel. We want to thank you so much for your support. So as you watch this video, please be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed to us, but please hit that like button. We would really appreciate it. So thank you so much. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So episode 5. Yeah. I mean, there were some, interesting parts of the episode. I mean, we got the backstory to Kamala's great grandmother and the situation that she was in. We see, of course, how her great grandmother and great grandfather came together. I mean, so we got that backstory. Just from my personal perspective on that, I think it lasted too long. I think they really shouldn't have gone into that for so long. But but we did get that backstory. What did you guys think of that?
Oh boy, Bradley, you want to go first?
I was gonna say I can make mine quick. I thought the backstory was okay, but like you said, too long. You know what? They didn't have to. I hate when they feel like we got to do this all in one episode, so we got to just dump the whole plot there. You could have sprinkled bits throughout the season because you're making this bangle so important. You could have given her every time she puts on the bangle or uses the powers a bit, she gets a small flashback. Got small pieces throughout the season. I think would have done much better.
Yeah, when you guys say too long, I mean it's a pacing problem. It's half the episode of you're just watching these characters that you've never seen before, like you've heard of, right? They've mentioned them, but none of it's really directly relevant, and all of it is pretty much what you kind of assumed. Obviously, like you didn't know exactly, but there's no big surprise in there that you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize this was the actual story, you know? So it comes down to a lot of like too little, too late. Mm-hmm. Like you're not telling a compelling enough story with this backstory, and you waited this long, and we're supposed to be in the thick of your plot, and now you're taking the time out of the main plot to tell us this whole long thing about this character who, in the end, it's just like, yeah, she just got stabbed and died. I'm like, really? That's it? Like, great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually line up properly with what we've been previously told. So like Kamala's mother is like, oh, she was bad. Nobody liked her. She was terrible. And then when you watch this, you're like, that's not true. What are you talking about?
It was a story that she was telling off of rumor and innuendo, I guess, of what was, what was told to her as a child, I guess.
I guess, but like, who would tell that story? It doesn't make sense. Like, I never got the idea that anyone would really say a lot of bad things about this person based on the story, and that doesn't line up with how they were trying to tell this or mislead you earlier on.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward. Obviously, and that's a thing, Carl. You're talking about a pacing issue. It's like we didn't even get Jersey City in this episode. You know, I was thinking, when are we going back to Jersey City? When are we going back to Jersey City? You know,
That's the finale. Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
but it's like in episode 5, I thought, okay, well, they're going to leave Pakistan, they're going to go back to Jersey City. No, it's didn't
one
happen.
other thing with the flashback, like this whole unraveling that I didn't like, is that the villain kills her great grandmother, but doesn't, is like, I've killed her. I couldn't get the bangle, so I'm just gonna give up for this time right now. I'm not gonna just. I know it would take a long time to search, but not spend this kind of time.
Yeah,
It's like, if this is so important to them and I need to get back home, why I would have been searching for hours and hours, days or years, not like 60, 70 years or whatever damn time. Just sit on my hands and do nothing.
Right. You had
like,
so much time.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just so weird because then you're also telling me, oh, okay, so then in that time when she just decided, I'm just going to give up on my quest to find this thing, and I'm just going to live a normal life. I'm going to meet a guy, I'm going to have a child, I'm going to raise that child, and then eventually one day I'm going to get like a ping on my radar. I'm going to go right back to being the same like villainous character who's like, I must just get the bangle and go back to the world. I don't care if everyone dies. Like, it doesn't work. The villain in this show is garbage. Absolutely the worst in all of the MCU. It's just it's worthless.
Yeah. And then you see the image here, and of course at the end she's about to go through the rift, and it's like her associate tried to go through, and you see what happens to her, and then obviously, Kamala is trying to talk her out of it because of your son, you have Kamran, and everything, and but then obviously she tries to go through anyway, and then transfers her power, I guess, is transferred to Kamran, who is in Jersey City still. So.
It just doesn't. Not only that, is you're kind of glossing over the fact that she's like, I'm the bad guy, I'm gonna do this no matter what, and then Kamala's like, but your son,
right?
And she's like, then the mother's like, oh, you're right. You know what? I'm gonna stop it. And that was it. That was basically what happened. I'm like, that's all it took.
That's all. You just have to remind her she has a kid, even though she said in like the episode prior to that, like, I'm abandoning him. I don't care.
Yeah.
But even though I said I don't care, you can just tell me one time, and I'm gonna be like, I care. I'm gonna give my power to my son and sacrifice myself because I care for my son. It's like, what? Like, no. Like,
yeah.
And it seems, I mean, because up until this point, it's like she didn't care about him. She cared about was getting through that rift.
Yeah. I mean, the previous episode, she abandoned him when he was injured in another country, just left with no help at all with anything.
We don't need you anymore. You're nothing. Yeah.
And then all it takes is just saying, hey, remember that kid that you abandoned that you didn't care about last episode?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I do love him. You're right. Aw.
Yeah.
Like, what the and then transferring the powers, like, I don't understand what you're doing. And then it gets into later, it makes even less sense when the implication that this is Kamala's a mutant, which I have to assume that he's a mutant too. I don't understand how you can say that this makes sense, that like I'm gonna will my son across the freaking globe to have some powers that I don't even have myself.
Yeah, and what I thought was kind of weird too is this scene here that of course all you video viewers can see the image of here is like at the end of the episode, right before they go back to the States. Now the mother knows that she's got all these powers, and up until this time she was like, being the real strict mother, and it's like, you have to find yourself, and and now she's like really open. It's like, oh, that's great. I just couldn't understand how,
especially in this in the last episode, it's a complete 180. She says whatever I'm gonna do, and she's like, yeah, Kamala, that's awesome, go be a hero. And the dad's like, but wait, you're gonna run into like all these really dangerous things. Like, you really need to be careful.
Yeah.
I almost feel someone should be like, you know, she might have to fight like a Thanos or something, and the mom would be like, "That's great, go ahead, you're super strong."
Yeah. So yeah, and then we get to episode 6, of course, and beginning in episode 6, she's like standing. Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah, so we're like standing there. She's standing there and like having to explain herself, you know, and it's like it's like the brother, you know, and the friend, they're like sitting there, and you know, the father, you know, just like you were talking about, Carl. It's like, yeah, you might have to fight, you know, some really dangerous you know, entities, you know, so you should be careful. But and then obviously the mother makes her the new costume, and we'll see that later. But yeah.
Also, it's been 2 episodes since we've seen any of these other characters.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, like, why'd you do that? I like the brother, I like the father, you know. The brother's wife is whatever. She's not really that significant, but and then there was also Nakia, who you know, was gone. And then you know, we'll get to that, but the girl, the other high school girl, the TikTok girl, like
the TikTok
again, girl, like was that supposed to be a character in your show? Because you kind of forgot.
She just shows up. She just shows up there because Kamala saved her. Yeah, like, you know. Right. So yeah. But what did you guys think of the? So of course, Bruno is helping Kamran, of course, because you know at the end of the last episode, in episode 5, of course, Kamran and you know the department, what is it called? The Department of Damage Control. Yeah, they're like, they got the drones out there and they blow up the liquor store or whatever where Bruno was living upstairs.
Circle Q, man.
Convenience store.
Yeah. The convenience store, yeah. And so, but then they, of course, you know, Bruno and, you know, and Kamran, they're like trying to escape the police. You know, there's the damage control, and obviously, you know, Kamala joins them, and then they come up with this plan to go. You know, they get into the high school, and they come up with all this plan to, you know, to stop the damage control department. I mean, what did you guys think of that part? I mean, that was pretty. I mean, I like the little cartoonish, you know, plans that were being drawn all over the board and everything like that. But what did you guys think of that section of the episode?
The Home Alone section you're talking about?
Yeah. The Home Alone section in the high school. Yeah.
In the high school. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't like it at all. It's just like the worst aspects of everything in the show. I mean, because it's villains that are stupid, undermined because they're getting defeated by silliness. It's characters that are just being thrown in there just because, like, we need all our characters to be involved. So, like, you know, why is it Zoe? Is that her name? I think the TikTok girl.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, yeah, I think you're.
Who's like, I'm here. And they're like, what are you doing here in the school on a Saturday? She's like, oh, the lighting in the room in the the theater is good. I'm like, you're making TikToks and by breaking into, like, no, it doesn't make any sense. And then the brother is there.
Come on. When you were in high school, you didn't break into your high school on
the brother's like, I went to this school.
Yeah. So like the brother also, right, is like, how are you here? I went here. I know how to get in. Like, but you just showed up randomly. Like, you're throwing softballs at. You're making
softballs and foam and, you know, or whatever it was.
I'm like, okay. Maybe you could cobble together some sort of distraction, but this foam was like,
it's like
so much. It was the entire room, and it went into other rooms in the hallways. I'm like
in the gym and everything. Yeah.
How could you make that? It's just science fiction all of a sudden, like nonsense that Bruno, like I hate. In the beginning 2 episodes, I was like nitpicking it. I was like, I don't really like Bruno being able to make all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then now we get to the point, and there's another thing later, of Bruno making stuff that I'm like, this is bullshit. I do not believe it at all for a second. You and I understand the comparison to Spider-Man and his web fluid, which I think is also kind of bullshit. but they glossed over it, and you had to just accept it. Like in the way they did in the MCU,
Yeah.
it was just established. It already happened. So I was like, well, I mean, I don't really think or believe that he could do that, but it's already happened. And then this is like in the middle. It's like, I'm doing this and I'm making this and I'm making this thing. And I can do that.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, I don't like it.
And then how the head of course the department there, the damage control department, was just so insubordinate to her superior that was on the phone with her saying, you need to stand down. We're getting so much negative publicity over this. You need to stand down. And she's like, okay, then hangs up the phone and then tells him to go in. It's just
Right.
just blatantly being insubordinate like that. It's just, yeah.
And then later she's like, fire. And
Yeah.
they're like unloading like handguns and assault rifles at
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Right there. There's the image there.
Bullets.
Yeah.
And the bullets are hitting the cars and you're seeing the holes in the cars. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think this is acceptable. You're just
Well,
shooting at children.
well, remember earlier, don't worry. Remember, and earlier they said when they were going to go after them, they said, "Don't worry, we're going to use non-lethal," and they got like AR-15s and handguns. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, like, are you trying to make a statement on it, like the gun situation in the U.S.? Like,
I don't know. I don't think they did it very well. So it's just odd.
It was just like this. I can't believe what I'm hearing and seeing.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't write it that way. I wouldn't write it to a situation where you have like some sort of police force shooting bullets at children in front of a school. Like it doesn't. It's disturbing considering what's happened in America, but also it's like why would that be a thing that anyone would really do? It doesn't make sense. They're not like violent criminals. It's just weird. It's really weird.
Right. And then what did you guys think of the part where, of course, her and Kamran, they make this big shield, and then of course Kamala makes the hole in the ground so he can escape and then get to the docks, because it's like it is funny. It's like she calls, the red sash guy, in Pakistan, and like he's obviously, I've got some connections, I can get him out of there. Even though I probably don't want to do it because it's he's a clandestine, but that's just I didn't see, I couldn't piece that part together very well, but so
can we go back to that last picture? I don't know if you can, if it's easy.
Oh,
I want to say something good. Okay. Being very negative, but I think this section of the looked cool when Kamala actually, she does she says the embiggen thing, and she looks as close as you're gonna get to the comic book version.
Comic book, I knew you were gonna say that. The comic book Kamala Khan.
And I mean, like it's weird because it's got the purple thing, crystal nonsense over it, and you can see her hands inside it. Right? Yeah. But it's still like you're seeing she got the long legs and extended her body and her arms and the big hands, and we were getting some action with her, and she has to grab a car, and
do you think, Carl, do you think they will change that?
Oh, there it is.
When it comes, do you think they will change that when it comes to the special effects for the movie? I mean, basically, maybe it was the budget that they had for Disney Plus for the TV show that they couldn't do some of the things from the comic book. Do you think that they will implement some of that into the movie special effects? Because obviously they'll probably have a much bigger budget for the movie.
I've kind of lost all hope for that at this point. If they do it, I'll be very happy, but I just don't think it's gonna happen at this point. I wanted to. One thing I wanted to mention too is that early in the episode, it's daytime and they're running away from Department of Damage Control.
Yeah.
And then at one point it goes from one scene being day to then all of a sudden being night.
Ignite. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, how many hours just passed?
Yeah.
Where were you running? How, like, I don't understand the context. Did any conversation happen in between there? Like, I hate when they do stuff like that. They just randomly pass time that doesn't make sense for the situation. And the reason I bring it up now is because I really feel that they're like, oh, these visual effects, we got to be at night because it's just not going to look that good if we try to do this in broad daylight.
Yeah,
We
Maybe.
just don't have the budget for it.
Maybe.
You're
Yeah.
you're probably honestly right on that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this whole scene could have been the day, and I almost feel like it might have even been filmed in the daytime. You know, they can. Most of these scenes actually technically are filmed in the day, and they make them night because it's easier.
Yeah. Maybe.
So it probably was day. That's not to say that the original intent was to make it during the day, but I don't know. I almost feel after watching this episode that at some point they thought they were going to do the regular stretchy powers. And then through whatever reason or means, like, it came that they weren't going to do it. Whether they didn't like the way it looked when they tried to do it, or they just thought they weren't going to be able to do it, or they just said, like, we just don't like the look, you know, in storyboard or whatever, and we decided we're not going to do it. And they went with this instead. Because when I watched this episode, I'm like, yeah, man, I could see, and throughout pretty much almost the entire show, I could envision all of that working with her normal powers. And it would just feel a little bit different. Like when she's, you know, running on her little platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, it can just be her with long legs running through the crowd. Like that's how she does it in the comics. She just gets really stretchy, and has her really long legs and just bounds across. I mean,
well, obviously they could probably, you know, make an excuse for the fact that Kamala's still learning how to use her powers, and of course that she's not at that point yet where maybe in the film she will be. Who knows? I don't know. But,
yeah, I just think that they're just gonna keep it at this point.
I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, we get towards the end of the episode, obviously, and Kamala, looks at herself in the mirror here, of course, and from still photos that have been coming out from the filming of the Marvels, her costume is going to look different than this.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, they're on Twitter and on the internet. So so they just started filming some of the scenes. So her costume looks a little bit different than that. So, but I want to get to the scene with Bruno here, where Bruno mentions that he found mutations in her.
Yeah.
So this is basically saying that she's a mutant. I mean, what did you guys think of this part?
This was to me just slap on the forehead. Like, this is just like, okay, we want to start getting mutants in there, so let's just start. It's just like I don't like it, but I'm not gonna go like this ruined the character, this thing here kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like this is just pandering to me, because we want to now we have the rights to start using mutants, so they want to start putting them in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like it. Is it that big of a difference? It wouldn't be if they hadn't done other things. So, like, for example, how would a mutant's powers be activated by some weird mystical bangle that doesn't make any sense? And then how would then Kamran's mutant powers be activated by the mother from across the world? Like, again, doesn't really make sense.
Through bullshit writing.
Yeah, so like I don't believe there's any way, maybe I'm wrong, but in the comics, I don't know of any obvious way that they're like mutant powers can just be activated. Like, it was always like a puberty thing usually. Like, at a certain point in your life, your powers manifest.
Yeah.
Whereas Inhumans were different in that you would have to undergo the Terrigenesis process, right? And it was a choice that you would make, or that everyone made in specific Inhuman cities, right?
Yep.
So that you could spontaneously get powers
Hmm.
at a certain at any age, really, right?
Yeah.
So it's a weird. It doesn't like. There's no reason to make this change other than we want to put mutants in. We're starting to put mutants, and it would be fine if you just made it that she just early on. They're like, yeah, like my powers just manifested because I'm a mutant. Like that's fine. I don't care. Just do that.
It's almost like I'm mutating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, like, okay, I gotta ask you this question. Both of you. 23andMe, right? Or similar ancestry.com, right? Where they look at your DNA.
Heard of it.
How long do you think it takes? Like if I were to send them like, a sample, what kind of facility and what kind of time would it take to look at my DNA? And if I needed to do more and say, here's two, can you compare these two and can you tell me if there's any mutations?
I had a coworker that did this. That did
Mhm.
the 23andMe, or I can't remember which one. The Amazon, the one you can get through Amazon cheap. And it took I think it took 6 to 8 weeks.
Now
Yeah.
we can assume that they're busy and they're not the only customer. So
Yeah.
you just got,
Yeah.
but like it may take less time. But my point is I don't believe that Bruno has the knowledge, the time, or the resources to look at Kamala and her brother's DNA and determine that there's some sort of special mutation, and that's the reason. Like I just don't buy it at all. I don't know if that bothered you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, that bothered me. But the show is basically putting him out as he is the new Tony Stark, just low budget Tony Stark.
Low budget Tony Stark. Yeah. That's good. Well, let's move on to the end. Of course, we get the end credit scenes, the credit scenes, and all.
Okay, quickly just say
Go ahead. Yeah.
The last reason that the reason it's definitively mutant is because they do the little X-Men music riff.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Because-
they do the little riff quick for the '90s series.
That
from
killed it all. Yeah, any hope of Inhuman, because you could have still said Inhuman is kind of a mutation, because it is. It's
Right. So anyway, we get through the credits. We get to the end credit scene, and Kamala's laying on her bed, and then her bangle starts activating, and then she stands up, and then we see this scene here, this image of her basically dematerializing and just
I don't know what that is, right?
yeah, just dematerializing, and then of course she goes right through the closet, just destroys the closet door there. And then, of course, out of the closet, none other than, of course, as I bring it up here, good old Carol Danvers comes out of the closet. And then she just kind of runs out of the room, and that's it. And then, of course, talks about them, being in the Marvels. But I don't know, man. They talk about maybe Captain Marvel has another one of those bangles. There's like a second bangle or something or whatnot, and she had possession of that or something, and that's why that's why
she's not wearing it here.
She's not wearing it though, but I mean
don't know what it is.
Yeah, so like Kamala, she dematerializes and then she comes through for some reason. I don't know, man, but yeah, what did you guys think of this scene? I mean, it was cool to see Brie Larson as, of course, Captain Marvel here for a brief second or two, but I don't know. I mean, or did Kamala go into another dimension or something? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm thinking it's a shifting in space, and somehow the bangle is going to be tied to the Tesseract, the Space Stone. I have no idea. They're gonna bullshit some weird way for this.
Yeah. Okay. The space stone. Okay. I mean that is how like that was the stone they used, right? It was Tesseract to
Yeah.
get Miss Marvel her or
Right,
Captain Marvel her powers.
right. The
So
space
like
stone right there.
I I don't know what this is. What's happening here? It doesn't
No
because
idea.
okay in the comics, and I don't know if this is happening here because it would make no sense, but uh, when Kamala first gets her powers, she's hit by the Terrigen Mist,
Mhm.
and she shapeshifts into Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So that is kind of what they're doing here. Whether they're implying that she's shapeshifting or it's just some weird teleporting nonsense, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't make sense. Like when I see this, and I'm like, I don't know if they're saying that she's shapeshifting with some nonsense power. Because
Yeah.
the way she reacts, I mean, I don't know if it definitively tells me if that's Carol Danvers or if that's Kamala
I
being
I
like, well,
took it
what the heck?
I took it as kind of like a comedic scene. Like, she just shows up and she sees all of the the Captain Marvel memorabilia and all the photos on the walls and stuff, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And she runs out of the room. That's it.
That
Yeah.
could
Yeah,
definitely, yeah, could definitely just be that. But then, like,
yeah,
then it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why is she randomly teleporting with this weirdo globby thingy and and like why like just the way they did the scene, like her going into the wall and breaking the door and like if it's all just like for comedic effect, like I didn't laugh, like
yeah, yeah. I
it
was
just
just, I was like, "What is this?"
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know,
And
but
obviously, we're going to find out in the Marvels.
yeah.
When the Marvels film comes out, because they have to explain this now. So, yeah,
Maybe they're just like, whatever. Like, however they introduce, like they could just not
It,
care.
yeah,
But I mean, I assume it'll be a part of the plot because Kamala's going to be in it. Uh,
right,
I think significantly. I don't know 100%, but
yeah,
all I could say is, I mean, that costume, the Captain Marvel costume looked great, and Brie Larson looks good.
yeah.
So in this, she got the way they did the hair. Yeah, it looks good. Good look. So like, okay. Kind of want to see more Captain Marvel now.
right, right. Well, it's
Yeah.
definitely different from the movies.
Yeah,
So
and
forth.
less
So.
Miss Marvel because I don't want to see those powers anymore, man. I just don't want to see them. Just change it. You'll all be forgiven if you just go back to the normal powers. She can be a mutant, whatever. I don't care
Yeah,
about her backstory. It won't matter if we just go forward and like they just change
Well,
somehow in the
yeah,
movie.
in all honesty, because we've seen this whole season now and seen what's unraveled from this, did
yeah.
this really need to be a show? And like, I'm sorry, I don't think
Yeah.
we needed a Miss Marvel show. If you're
Yeah.
not going to do the character right and do the character justice and the way the character should be,
Yeah.
there's no point of this being a
Well,
show.
I just have to say, they didn't do the character right in certain ways, but I think this show, and a lot of media outlets are saying this as well, that this show really did show uh, the Muslim representation within the United States very well. Uh,
Hmm.
when it comes to like situations at home with family and family life, situations in the mosque when it comes to elections and things like that, they really hit the mark when it came to Muslim representation uh, in this series. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I think that was a plus to this series. But just, I mean, overall, I think, and this is just with not just Miss Marvel, but with a lot of the Disney Plus Marvel series that they put out so far, they're just too short. I think 6
Yeah.
episodes is just not enough. It should
Yeah.
be I'm going to say this, and this is from a different series and a different everything. Like Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, we just saw, it was amazing. It was 10 episodes. I think it should
Hmm.
at least be 10 episodes for these Marvel shows.
Yeah. She-Hulk's gonna be
Yeah,
9.
yeah,
So that's good. I'm excited. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm more hopeful that things will turn out better, because the 6 episode thing it's a huge problem for some of these shows. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I think we have the two. If you want to compare Moon Knight and this, Moon Knight, I think, ended up being good, and it felt a lot like, all right, we took what would have been a movie and we kind of stretched it out, and there was a little bit extra that we didn't need. It wasn't bad, but like I think it would have been better if it was like a tighter story.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel, I think, became a problem more of like, all right, we have this idea and this concept, and we're going to do this representation of Muslim Pakistani in America.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a story to tell outside of that.
Yeah.
Right. Like the main conflict wasn't really there. It wasn't really interesting. There wasn't enough of it.
They didn't give it enough time. There were just not enough time to go into it. And I just want to point out too, one other bright spot to this series, Iman Vellani. She's a very, very good actress. I mean, I really like her, and I'm looking forward to seeing her in in the Marvels. But I mean, even though the character was misrepresented in a way, I thought she did a really fine job as Miss Marvel. I mean, Iman Vellani is a great up and coming actress, I think. Yeah.
It's great, great choice, great find. We'll see how things go for her.
Yeah.
I just think that like I didn't realize it was a 6-episode thing until like episode 4, when I was like, I saw that like there's 2 episodes left, and I was like, are you what?
Yeah.
That makes
and
no
it's
sense.
like it's just beginning. Yeah. It's like,
So like this should have been, and the problem I think with most of the Marvel shows so far, with the exception of maybe Loki, like should have been more of a TV series, right? All the shows feel like they're movies that are drawn out into a longer form.
Yeah.
Loki felt sort of like a series, right? And then maybe that shows why we're getting a season 2, because it did feel like a TV series.
Yeah.
This should have been more episodic.
Yeah.
Right. It should have been like just, I'm Miss Marvel. I'm the Jersey City hero, and I'm also a Pakistani Muslim, and I have to deal with all these, social issues. And I'm also a high school student. I have to deal with those social issues. I have to deal with my cultural issues, and the sort of like drama and antics that would go through that. You can just write episodes, right? You can just write stories, self-contained stories. And then you can have the longer story unfold, maybe over through to the end somewhere. Like I never actually thought for a second they were going to do a 6-episode little mini series that was like supposed to be some sort of defining story for the character, because the character doesn't really have that. She isn't really that character.
Yeah. Well, any other final thoughts? Burley, do you have any final thoughts?
Not really, because we pretty much all kind of covered it. All I'll kind of just say is like episode 6, that was a struggle to watch. Like I was just bored. I'm bored to tears through most of the episode. I literally at many points were just about to grab my Switch or Steam Deck and just play and watch.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the other shows and series, I haven't had that kind of draw. But yeah, there shouldn't have been 6 episodes. This should have been longer. This should have been planned out better, because it just like it was going at a decent pace and then just sped up, and then it's like, oh crap, we killed our villain.
Yeah, right.
Shit, we got to make a bullshit story at the end.
Yeah, fight a bunch of random dudes with what guns?
Yeah.
Stun guns?
Yeah. Some type of stun guns that they had.
And then punch a hole into Pakistan. I don't know, like what?
Yeah, punch a hole to the wharf.
Yeah, I know, like
So
what was happening
escape,
there, but I just don't know where did the hole go?
Yeah. And then
Did he
Uh,
go into the sewers? I guess maybe he crawled through the sewers for hours trying to get out to find.
and then Kamran just he ends up in Pakistan and he's with the Red Daggers now. What is he going to become, a Red Dagger? With powers?
I mean, who cares? The Red Dagger is like one guy, right?
Yeah.
One
it
kid.
seems like it.
yeah.
Right? 'Cause
Anyway,
did they show us any other Red Daggers? They imply there's more of them. Like,
It's implied, but you just have the one kid.
right.
the one kid and the guy died. That's it.
So anyway, this has been our recap and review of episodes 5 and 6 of Miss Marvel. Of course, next month we have She-Hulk, Attorney at Law coming. So we're looking forward to bringing you those episodes, our recap and review episodes on that. So until then, I've been your host, Expat, along with my co-hosts, Burley of Burleyman Gaming and Turn-Based Carl. We hope to catch you in the next episode of the Marvelous Marvel Discussion Arena, coming up next month for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. So take care, everyone. Peace out.